Hey guys, Jayvee here with Should You Play? A first impressions series showing off the newest games and letting you know, should you play them? Today we're looking at Valheim, a game that I am honestly absolutely addicted to. It's an open world survival game with a Viking theme that's selling like crazy on PC. It's already sold 1 million copies on Steam, and it somehow passed GTA 5 in concurrent players. It probably helps that it's a multiplayer game if you want it to be. You can host a server for up to 10 people, play with your friends, or you can play solo like I've been doing. Now, I don't like survival games, like at all. I find them pretty boring because a lot of them don't have clear objectives and you have to make your own fun and they force you to do a bunch of busy work that feels like doing chores. For the most part, Valheim doesn't do this stuff, and right from the start you know your goal. It's to defeat 5 bosses in the world. That's it. You have to figure out where they are, and how you get there feels like you're writing your own adventure. Now, I don't mean that in a lazy sort of way where it feels like the developers forgot to include a story or anything like that. This world constantly dangles carrots in front of you, getting you to explore and figure out like, what is it that I'm looking at over there, or what could be hidden in this forest. The first 20 minutes, you're learning the basics. You're learning how to make a shelter, build a campfire, find food, basically just survive. But then before you know it, you're mining for ores, bringing them back to your smelter. You're building up your fortress, you're sailing on a boat across the ocean, you're exploring dungeons and fighting skeletons. It's one of those games where you just lose track of time. I honestly don't remember the last time I was this hooked to a game. One of the coolest things to me is how Valheim is grounded mostly in physics. Like, you chop down trees and they fall based on their position and the wind direction. So if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, they can fall and crush you to death. Similar to a game like Minecraft, pretty much everything you see can be harvested or manipulated. So, like I said, trees can be chopped, rocks can be mined, you can even dig underground once you get a pickaxe. And like most survival games, there's a crafting system, which you upgrade over time in order to build better things for your base or better items to use. But what's kept me going is this sense of danger and wonder that the game gives off. It kind of reminds me of Outer Wilds. No, I'm not talking about the Outer Worlds, but Outer Wilds from 2019. You never really know what you're going to stumble upon next. I also, for the most part, just don't like early access games. I mean, it's cool to support small developers and give them feedback, but a lot of the time you get a buggy experience that isn't super long either. Valheim is just the most complete early access game I think I've ever spent money on. I mean, seriously, I've played 20 hours in the game and I haven't even defeated the second boss yet. I keep comparing it to Grounded, which is the last early access survival game that I played. The content dried up in that game after like a dozen hours. Valheim is just a massive game with tons to do, lots of progression, and if you're like me, you'll be spending most of your time base building. Now, I'll be honest, I just kind of suck at this stuff. I try to do my best, but it never ends up looking as good as some of the things around there that you'll find. I tried my best to make a giant longhouse for my base, and it looks all right. But around the internet, there are some seriously insane builds that you can make with this system. And there's such a satisfying progression of seeing your home go from basic wooden shack all the way to giant stone fortress. And the building system is super lightweight and functional. Plus, if you make a mistake, there is 0 penalty for breaking down what you've built and rebuilding it again. In fact, I think the key thing that Valheim does best as a survival game is not punish you too hard for anything. So it creates this feeling that you can experiment and figure things out however you want and at your own pace. The magic is stumbling upon something new, and this game constantly gives you those moments. But if you're looking for those more intense moments, there's plenty of those too, because we haven't even talked about combat yet. Pretty early in the game, you'll learn to use your spear or your bow to hunt for boars and deer for upgrade materials. I'll be honest, Valheim's combat didn't impress me at first. I mean, it's a little rough around the edges just looking at gameplay, but over time I learned the little quirks and nuances, and it's actually a lot more in-depth than I realized. You can block, parry, dodge, you've got axes, swords, spears, clubs, hammers, two-handers, one-handers, different shield types, different material types. I mean, there's a lot going on here. Enemies have resistances and vulnerabilities, so not one, like god item is going to be effective against everything, at least not that I've found. For example, when you're fighting skeletons, it's best to use a club because they are vulnerable to blunt damage versus a spear because they are resistant to piercing. And the best way I've found to kill a troll is with fire. I mean, just kill it with fire. Look at these things. I mean, the first time I saw this, I gasped audibly and ran for my life. These guys also knock down trees, so arguably the more dangerous thing about them is that they'll crush you with a tree rather than hitting you. Another way Valheim feels great is that it doesn't put any ridiculous restrictions on what you can do just because it's a survival game. The only thing you really have to watch is hunger, which makes you eat something every now and then. There is a maximum carry weight, but once you find and clear a dungeon, you can get the materials to create portals, which eases that restriction. Now, there is one item type that you can't bring through portals, but I kind of like that because it makes you explore other ways of transportation and do another one of the coolest things in the game, sailing. It took me way too long to finally build one, but boats are just so much fun in Valheim. And once you make your first real boat, you can haul valuables back and forth. I mean, it's pretty easy. Every dozen or so days in the game, you'll get attacked by the forest. It's this really cool moment where it says, the forest is moving, and then you have time to prepare, and then it says the forest is attacking you. So it's basically like a defense little event where you have to defend your base. It's never too difficult, and I've always been able to win the fight. Now, I am approaching about 50 in-game days, so maybe I haven't seen the worst of it, but it's a really cool idea that I just didn't know existed until I progressed further. Now, if you do end up dying, Valheim is not as punishing about death as you might expect a survival game to be. I mean, every time you die, you drop a little tombstone that has all of your items, and it exists permanently until you grab them. You'll lose some stat progression, but it's nothing too bad. You just have to do a little death run to get all of your stuff. I don't know if I made this super clear, but Valheim's world is procedurally generated, and it has several biomes, and each of them feel distinct and different, which is really cool. You start in the meadows, which is a relatively nice and calm area. I mean, there's deer and boars. There's a few gray dwarfs, which is the most common enemy, but that's it. I mean, they're really easy to kill. It's relatively safe, and this is probably where your base is gonna be. But then, the very next zone you have to go to is the Black Forest, and even still, even though I've kind of done everything there, it's terrifying. It's this thick and dark wooded area filled with firs and oaks. In the meadows, you get this nice, just very light music, but once you enter the Black Forest, the music shifts and it's very ominous when you enter. And you never know when a troll is going to show up behind you and smash you to death, or when you're going to get swarmed by a group of gray dwarfs. The mountain is another zone. I'll be honest, I haven't really explored it a bunch because it's a snowy zone, and this area freezes you to death unless you have the right equipment. And yeah, that's all I really know at this point, but it looks cool. And then the other one I found is the ocean. And this, man, if you use your boat and go out far enough, you're gonna find something that, if you're like me and you have a phobia of deep water, it's gonna terrify you. I don't remember the last time I said, oh my God, 10 times alone in my room by myself. Now, everything I've described is from a solo player's experience. I haven't played with a single other person yet. So if that's something you want, you can absolutely get it from Valheim. Even though I haven't done this, like I said at the beginning, Valheim is a very competent multiplayer game. What that means is you can set up servers for up to 10 people. You have your own world seed that you can share with other people online if you want them to explore your world. You can set up a persistent server, so that means even if you're not on, your friends can hop into that world and make progress. This was such a smart move by the developer. I mean, this is a huge draw for the game, the fact that you can cooperate and do this together, or you can even set up a PvP-enabled zone where you can fight each other. So really, in terms of a survival experience, Valheim ticks a lot of boxes for a lot of people. The last point I want to make is just this game is really chill and fun. Nothing I've come across has felt frustrating or stressful. Yeah, there's some obstacles, some hurdles, but it always feels satisfying to overcome them rather than making me want to put the game down like a lot of survival games do. The music is incredible. The art style is so charming. It's a tiny game. It's only 1 gigabyte, so it's kind of mind-blowing when you start uncovering what's in this world, how it's in such a small package. I just don't remember the last time I've looked down at the time and realized I've been playing a single game for several hours and not know it. So, should you play Valheim? I think it's pretty obvious. Yes. 5,000 times yes. That's my answer. I've never felt this way about a survival game, ever. It's in early access, but it's not a buggy early access game like you might expect. And the developer, Iron Gate Studio, has already put out a roadmap of new features coming in the future, and some of them are really exciting. I know it's a weird year for games since there's nothing coming out until May pretty much, but this could easily be in my top 10, maybe even top 5 games of the year by the end of 2021. I mean, it is that good. All right, guys, that's it for the video. Like I said, this is a new kind of series that I'm testing out, so really let me know if you enjoyed this video by clicking the like button and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. You can also follow me on social media. On Twitter, I'm at jayveeonYT, and Instagram, I'm jayvee.yt to stay up to date on all of my new videos. If you want to chat more about games like Valheim and join kind of the larger community outside of YouTube, we have a Discord server over at discord.gg/jayveeonYT. Links for everything is in the description below. Big thanks to my YouTube members, Ultra fans Dave, Grass, Deadwalker, Cullen, Bill, and Cam. Super fans Kamal, Casey, Tipsy Sergey, Tarl K, Ryan, Tia, and Rabbi. Fans John, Matthew, Spyro, JVO, Level 42, Joe, Lilman, and Blood Sky. And supporters Nos, Sung, Adam, Mr. Hollow, Quickness, Firkin, John, Jay, Sam, and Abhishek for supporting the channel. If you want to support me further, click the join button below this video. In exchange for your support, you'll unlock custom badges, emotes, and monthly members-only play sessions with the community. Check the link in the description for more information. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.